quando lei pensa che il figlio rappresenta la continuità di noi stessi, lei lo porta a scuola, il giorno che riesce negli studi che è il primo della classe, lei è orgoglioso del proprio figlio, capita quello.
Hello and welcome to the Car Nerd Talks, and today we're going to be talking about something that has me a little bit annoyed, which is I didn't notice until yesterday that Ferrari has now confirmed that they're going to be making an SUV, the 2021 or 2022 Purosangue or Sangua, or I don't really care. But yeah, apparently it's called the Purosangue or Sangue or something. And this is a little annoying because it goes against everything in Ferrari's history. And to be honest with you, it was one of the things that when Aston Martin announced one, that kind of pissed me off as well. But you know, it's been a long trend that unfortunately the Germans started, where high-end manufacturers are now going to where the sales are. And I guess I understand it, but Ferrari is really the nail in the coffin. The Porsche started with their goddamn Cayenne in 2002. But we'll get into that in a second. First of all, we need to talk about some housekeeping. I need you to like and subscribe to the Car Nerd, by which I mean Jason has it, by which I mean the channel that you're watching right now. And that right there was given with all of the suave-esque of, what's his name, Jeremy Clarkson or James May or one of those. Basically, I'm just an old guy ranting now who's put on some weight. But yeah, please do like and subscribe because it'll help me survive during this coronavirus that we're going through right now. So welcome. This is, in case you were wondering, actually this is Barcelona. Things have gone to shit with this coronavirus. The whole place has been knocked down. That right there actually was a full mountain before the coronavirus, but they just completely took the top off and turned it into a gigantic hospital. But as you can see, it didn't help. There's not much of Barcelona left. So that's a quick coronavirus update today on the 5th of April 2020. We thought it would be fine, but everything's fucked. Unfortunately, Maranello is still making cars, which would have been fortunate if it wasn't for this goddamn announcement of this goddamn SUV which they're going to create. And also, as you can see, as soon as I talk about it, hell is freezing over. You know, the sun is about to go down and the whole world is being ruined because of this goddamn news. So, to get into it, I'm going to quickly give a backstory of why I hate the idea of Ferrari making an SUV so much. And the reason I hate it so much is because Enzo Ferrari was against building road cars purely for sale. And so much against it, in fact, that he was just focused on race cars. Unfortunately, to fund his race cars, he had to build road cars. And also, for him, I think it was the idea that building these road cars to be high performance would be a good thing for Ferrari, because it would bring the normal guy who, like, well, for him, had a lot of money into the Ferrari world. So Ferrari road cars were always built as a way to pay for the race cars for Enzo, and also to give that lure to Ferrari as these high-end cars, which is why they never built a sedan or anything just to make money. They had to keep to that prestige of the Ferrari name. Enzo Ferrari in 1920 started working with Alfa Romeo, of all people. This was long before he made any Ferrari cars, and he was working with them as a race driver. So Enzo Ferrari was originally a race driver because that's what he wanted to do. That was what he enjoyed so much. And in 1924, that was his best year. He went on to win 3 races, 3 big races in Italy, racing for Alfa Romeo. And his team was called Scuderia Ferrari, and they went on to be really, really popular in Italy, and did really well with all these races. And then in 1939, there was some disagreements between Ferrari and Alfa Romeo, and he decided to leave and start making his own race cars. Unfortunately, this was poor timing because the war was just about to break out, and the factory that he had built in Maranello was taken by Mussolini for the war effort. And this goddamn door keeps opening, so if you like this channel, you'll find this. Like now. So in 1939 he built the factory. Mussolini shortly thereafter took it over for the war effort in 1940. So it wasn't until 1947 the Ferrari S.p.A. was made, and this was Enzo Ferrari's dream, was to make race cars, and to fund this he would make road versions of these cars and sell them to the general population who had some money in their pocket. So he went on to be a hugely successful racing company. The Germans were dominating at that time, and the Ferrari team went on to win a few Le Mans, and that's where they got massive amounts of fame, was from Le Mans and from all these racing, and everyone wanted to own a Ferrari car. Ferrari would be known as the greatest producer of cars in the world, and the reason he'd be known to do that is not because he sold the most, to quote the Ford v Ferrari movie. It's because he made the best, and that's what Ferrari wanted to do. Enzo Ferrari wanted to make the best racing cars and be the best racing team in the history of racing. That was all he was interested in. He was never interested in the road cars. And as a side note as well, in case you want some more nerdy history, given how I fucked up on the last bit, the prancing horse was actually after a guy Francesco Baracca, Barazza, I believe it is, who was a friend of Enzo Ferrari and gave him a pendant with the horse on it, and it was on the side of his plane. The prancing horse was on the side of his plane in Italy, and he was an Austrian guy. He took off in 1918 for the war and died, and Ferrari decided to use that crest in honor of him, and that's now the Ferrari logo. But that's a sidebar. So Ferrari's hatred of just making cars for the sake of volume and wanting to sell them is summed up by what happened with the merger with Fiat in the 60s. He was essentially trying to sell part of his company, because due to new standards in emissions and things to do with his racing team, the prices were going up. So they were having massive financial problems in the 60s. They were very close to bankruptcy. So to fund his racing team, he needed to sell the road car division. Now, Fiat and him had some disagreements over pricing and different things that he wanted to do, so it was just lucky for him, I guess, that at the time Ford wanted to get into racing to start selling more cars. They had just released the Mustang, and it was right time for them to want to create a racing team. And Iacocca, who went on to be head of Chrysler, Fiat Chrysler, funnily enough, and Chevrolet, I believe, later on. He wanted to move the company into racing and convinced Henry Ford too to do it. So they went to buy Ferrari, because Ferrari's about to go bankrupt, and they could have got it for $18 million, which seems crazy today, because there's a few Ferraris that you could buy for $18 million. So when they went, they found out that basically Ferrari, and they were trying to move Ferrari out of the racing so that they could go in and win with Ford racing cars, or rebadge Ferraris to be Ford racing cars, so they could sell more Fords to the general public. The problem was Enzo Ferrari was only interested in racing and didn't give a shit about selling cars. So when he asked the question of them, if you don't want me to go to Le Mans, do I race? And Ford had to say no, because he couldn't have. He threw this back in the face, and as you've probably seen in the Ford versus Ferrari movie, he told them to go back and tell Henry Ford Sr. to keep making ugly little cars in his ugly big factory, because he's pig-headed and he's not Henry Ford the First. So after this whole Ford debacle, Ferrari used this as leverage to go back to Fiat, and he managed to get Fiat to buy it for, I think it was an undisclosed amount, but I imagine it was 18-20 million, the same as what Ford were offering. However, the offer was that Ferrari himself would get to run the racing team 100%, and that Fiat would take 50% of the road car division. And then they would give massive subsidies to the road car division, and this would give Ferrari the money to keep racing. So that's what he did. So I think it's fairly obvious from history that Enzo Ferrari could not give a flying fuck, excuse the language, about road cars. They were just a means to an end for him, but he still wanted to make his road cars be something that would live up to the race cars that he was running, and that was the primary importance for him. Moving into modern times and getting back to my point, the the first of these SUVs to come into play was, of course, the Porsche Cayenne. And I remember at the time that was kind of like Porsche making an SUV. What the hell? But it was very successful for them over the years, and obviously Porsche then made a 5-door saloon, but it was kind of a hatchback saloon, a wagon, I guess you'd call it. And this was very successful for them. And as cars have moved towards SUVs, and car sales have moved towards SUVs, and obviously in the Chinese market they're very popular as well, and in the American market it's SUVs or nothing essentially, a lot more have followed on from this. And lately we've seen since 2017, we've seen a slew of these manufacturers that you would never think would get into this start making SUVs, and it's disgusting and horrible, and I hope someone kills them all because it's terrible. But they'll do what they need to do to make sales, and to be honest, for any other company, there's no real qualms about it. They're just moving with the times. So the only one that I guess really bugged me, or the two that really bugged me, was the Lamborghini Urus, which unfortunately is an incredible SUV, and that's really irritating because I was hoping it would be a pile of dog shit and they'd get out of it and go back to doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is crazy, Countach and Aventador style overblown hypercars. But it worked, so here we are. And then Aston Martin jumped in, and I kind of hope that fails, but then if that fails, Aston Martin's probably going to go away because Aston Martin needs to make money. But here's the real one that upsets me, and it's Ferrari getting into this game, because Ferrari shouldn't need to move with the times. It's a Ferrari. Ferraris will sell and they'll keep making money because people will always want Ferraris. And Enzo Ferrari would have hated this so much. And I think it's just an unfortunate part that his legacy is now moving to sell road cars for the sake of selling road cars and not sticking with their race car heritage. But that's just one car nerd's rant, and it wasn't done very well, and to be honest, I'm not going to edit this one very well because this is just something that I wanted to rant about as opposed to a really prepared video. So if you've sat here and watched through this, thank you, and I hope you subscribe and like, and also I'm sorry that this wasn't more prepared, but here we are. So yeah, thank you for that. But let me know in the comments, and let me know on drivetribe.com as well in the comments that you've probably clicked through to this from, and if you haven't, go to DriveTribe because it's amazing. And let me know what you think of this Ferrari, and I guess whether or not you think Enzo Ferrari would love it, or whether you care, or whether you think it's important at all. Let me know. I'd love to hear and debate and tell you you're an idiot in the comments, and that would be brilliant. But yeah, like and subscribe, and let's hope that this Ferrari comes out and it's even more amazing than the Lamborghini, and maybe they take it racing and they turn it into a race car and make up for this whole thing. Because otherwise I'm going to really, really be pissed off, and I'm never going to buy the Ferrari that I couldn't afford anyway. So thank you so much for watching, and over the next couple of days I'm going to be doing some more of these rants, but going back to rants like the Mercedes one yesterday, which are a little bit more prepared and less of just a complete rant. And I think in the next few days I'm going to be doing a few reviews of cars that you're going to see where I actually have a car. It's just the coronavirus is making it very difficult to find cars to be able to review. So instead I'm here with crazy hair like Scotty Kilmer ranting into a crappy setup, but we do what we have to do. So thank you for watching so much, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.